Rina vishua v'chatzoi tziroi satrua b'tzeisi mimitzrayim. Rina vishua v'chatzoi tziroi satrua b'tzeisi mimitzrayim. Rina vishua v'chatzoi tziroi satrua b'tzeisi.
Tisha B'Av. There are so many words that come to mind. Avelus, mourning, meraglim, churban. So many reasons for us to be sad. But there is another word, another concept, another idea that actually has a tremendous connection to Tisha B'Av, and that is Kiruv, bringing back those who are not yet in the fold. Kiruv, that's the concept that can bring Mashiach. That's the effort that can make the difference. That's the one thing, perhaps, that can make the difference between Golus and Geula. And we sit here today on Tisha B'Av and think of all the Tisha B'Avs in the past. But we also think of what has been happening in the last few years and the efforts that have been made in Kiruv and how we can possibly bring Mashiach closer and closer every year, and indeed use Tisha B'Av as the springboard to be able to bring Kiruv into our focus and into our daily lives. And perhaps, b'siyata d'shmaya, bring Mashiach tzidkenu. Rab Shlomo Wolbe, Zechet Tzadik Levracha, the well-known mashgiach, the well-known mechanech, was asked, what is the mitzvah of this generation? What is it that we can do to bring Mashiach closer? His answer may surprise you, but his answer is a sterling example of something that we need to keep in mind. Take a look at this rare footage of this well-known mashgiach.
אני חושב שהיום זאת העבודה שלנו לקבל. למה המשיח עוד לא בא? אני חושב שהמשיח מחכה לכך שכל היישוב יחזור בתשובה. זאת העבודה. בוודאי אותו דבר בחוץ לארץ. בפרט, בלי תורה, צריכים להתקרב, לעסוק בקירוב. אדם צריך לתת מעשה מהזמן של הכלל ישראל. כל אדם שמקיים מצוות יכול משהו להגיד. הוא לא צריך להגיד דברים גדולים. אבל אדם שיש לו בית ושומר שבת והילדים שלו גדלים כילדים דתיים, הוא יכול לדבר על כל אדם כמה טוב זה חיים של תורה. אם הוא בא ומדבר עם אנשים כמה טוב זה לשמור מצוות, להיות יהודי טוב, זה לא יפריע לו. להפך, הוא יתחזק מזה. הילד החרדי ישפיע גם כן על הילד השני. מידה ראשונה אהבה, לאהוב יהודי. מדברים אותו שלום, אני רוצה להכיר אתכם, מה שלומכם, מה אתם עושים. לדבר יפה, בצורה יפה לדבר איתם. ואחר כך הוא יספר להם על יידישקייט, על תורה, על מצוות. אין להם כלום. סוציאליזם, קומוניזם, אין. הם מחכים לכך למנות משהו את הריקנות של הלב שלהם. תלכו ותגידו שזה מחזק אתכם וזה נותן לכם הרבה סיפוק.
Sain v'simcha v'nas yagon v'anocha b'shuvi l'Yerushalayim.
This year's film is entitled Journey to Jerusalem. And the title is not an accident. Journey to Jerusalem, that's exactly what I did. I journeyed to Jerusalem because Yerushalayim has a special power. It has a special power that injects a certain kedusha into every single neshama. Some of them who were completely lost. Some of them who had no connection to Yiddishkeit whatsoever. Some of them where their Kiruv stories began in the United States or in Canada. But when they got to Yerushalayim, everything changed. That's the power of Yerushalayim. We've showed you stories in the past. Stories about how frum people have gotten involved in Kiruv in the United States, in Canada, etc. And all of them are inspirational. But this year we understand in a new, more profound way perhaps, that it is Yerushalayim that really brings it home. It is Yerushalayim, the home of the Jewish people, that makes such a difference to every single soul. And this year, our mourning is compounded on Tisha B'Av by the loss of so many Gedolim this year, and most recently, the loss of Rav Elyashiv, Zechet Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, who of course was the Paisik Ador, took the entire generation of Klal Yisrael on his shoulders. Most of you know that Rav Elyashiv was an only child. Rav Elyashiv was born after 17 years of his parents waiting for that little child to come into this world. The lesson, of course, is obvious. They did not give up hope. They didn't give up hope, and look what they got. In Kiruv, it's very much the same way. We cannot give up hope, ever. The Paris can be incredible. Watch. Listen. Be inspired. Let's begin with an update. 2 years ago, a lot of you watched our Tisha B'Av film, Wiping a Tear, in which you saw a younger man from Muncie who had a, quote, chance encounter with someone. And a lot of people say, what happens afterwards? Well, I was curious too, so I went to Yerushalayim to find out. Let's find out what happened 2 years later. So you had an incredible encounter that some of us know a little bit about from a couple of years ago. How did that get started? Just give us the framework.
Well, the beginning of the story.
Right at the very beginning.
Well, as you mentioned, some of you have heard the story that I was walking outside my house one evening, and this guy on the bike was riding by, and he stopped me and asked me for directions. So, what do you do when someone asks directions? You ask, are you Jewish?
I'm riding up a hill, and I see this Hasidic guy standing there. I'm like, well, he's the only person around, let me ask him. So here I am, go up to some random Hasidic guy and say, do you speak English? He says, yeah, of course. I said, okay, do me a favor. I'm sort of lost here. Can you direct me back to Rockland Community College? And he's like, of course, but are you Jewish?
So this developed, you were studying with him for a while, learning with him for a while, and one day you said it's time to take it to the next level.
When he came home, holidays, vacation, whatever it was, he used to come to me for Shabbos. Towards his end of college years, that's when I said, you're finishing college, you have no planned job yet, so now's the time. I think you should go to yeshiva.
He said, Sydney, I really want you to go to Aish. I said, what's Aish? And he basically tells me, it's this Jewish education program, and I'm like, not really that interested. And, after about 3 or 4 months of persistently reminding me about this program, I ended up here.
Any regrets?
Nope.
No regrets.
No, I love it here. It's really my favorite place in the world. It's right here in Jerusalem.
This may sound like a redundant question, but why? Why was it so important in your eyes to get him to go to yeshiva?
First of all, he's in an environment, a Torah environment, 24/7. He's eating in yeshiva, sleeping in yeshiva, so all your friends are doing the same thing. And being away from home is always a good idea, or it certainly helps you grow in spirituality.
Was there any indication from his learning that he was ready to go off 6,000 miles to an unknown foreign yeshiva?
Not really, but I saw in him that it's beautiful neshama, and he could, every Yid should go to yeshiva.
How did you feel? It's so interesting when he says, "Are you Jewish?" Because a lot of people are reluctant to ask that question.
It was a good starting point for the two of us because, okay, if I hadn't been Jewish, what? I'm not Jewish, okay, here's your directions. But Aryeh took the time and, he tried to figure out who I was.
A lot of the people who are watching this today on Tisha B'Av are saying, Aryeh Royd, he can ask, "Are you Jewish?" I can't really ask that question. What would you say to those people who are not able or not willing or not ready to ask that question?
You can bring people in if you just approach the subject. It can't hurt to ask, and you'll never know that unless you ask. The potential rewards for asking that question are huge.
Ribono Shel Olam seems to have handpicked you in some way, that you were the one to meet this fellow. You have changed the course of his life, maybe l'netzach netzachim.
He found me. He was looking for directions, and I gave him directions to Israel. It's certainly a very humbling experience and feeling. However, if one thinks into it, it's scary to notice how many opportunities we do have every day and we lose it.
What would you say to somebody who is afraid?
Well, had I shared a different story, maybe it would have been a good question. Had I done something profound, people could say, it's not for me, I can't do this. But all I done was I said hello and I became friendly. So everyone could become friendly and build a relationship. And especially if I'm sharing with you this story that after 4 years, and I'd never imagined he'll go to yeshiva. But after 4 years of just having a healthy relationship and sharing a Shabbos and going out together, look where you end up. So I'm sure this should give a push to everyone that by saying hello, being friendly to people out there, you can change the world.
Incredible. Realize, of course, it's 2 years since you saw the story, but it's 4 years since that initial encounter, and now he's in yeshiva. As I say, never give up, never lose hope. You don't know, sometimes it can take a long time for those roots to really bear fruit, but it does happen. Shabbos. Shabbos is something powerful about Shabbos, like there's something powerful about Yerushalayim. And Shabbos has a power that is indescribable. Often, we invite people for Shabbos, they leave, and you think, well, what happened? Nothing much. This is the story. It's an ordinary story. It's very simple. It's just about one Shabbos invitation. Take a look. Born and bred in Vancouver?
Born in Winnipeg. Family moved to Calgary. Then I went to Toronto for University of Toronto.
Tell me where you met Mark Krieger.
Moish and we met, this was in Calgary. I was 13, he was 12. We were in bar mitzvah class together, and we also went to Camp B'nai B'rith in Pine Lake, Alberta together as well.
So tell us about Calgary and how you and Rafal first met a little bit, just if you can remember that.
Sure. So Calgary is a very small Jewish community. There's one Orthodox shul. And I met Rafal when we were young, in our 11, 12 years old, something like that. We were friendly in our early years and then basically lost touch, other than once a year or once every couple of years.
So you had a bar mitzvah. What do you remember about your bar mitzvah, if anything?
I loved learning the Haftarah. the Torah reading, of which I didn't realize until very recently we did a third of the portion, because that's what they did in the conservative moment. But all this time, I was pretty secular, about as far away from identifying with being Jewish as you can possibly be. But again, I have memories of this, of even almost feeling embarrassed when I was in Ottawa, feeling embarrassed to be even close to a shul.
Did you say that you were embarrassed to be
There
close
was-
to a shul?
It was just anything to do with Judaism.
That's
It
a
was just-
pretty
it was-
heavy statement. You're
yeah.
embarrassed to be close to a shul, as
Yeah.
if you're somehow associated with it.
It amazes me. It amazes me to even think of this right now, of where I was at.
One day you get a call.
Yeah, I got a call from him. He was coming from Vancouver and asked if he needed a place to stay for a few days. So I said, with pleasure. Then I said, what days are you coming? And I looked at the calendar, and I saw there was Shabbos right in the middle of his trip. So I said to him, Shabbos is in the middle. There's some restrictions involved. I don't know if it's going to impede or impinge upon whatever you're planning to do. And he said, no, whatever, it's fine. He's good. It's fine. I said, okay, fine. So you'll spend Shabbos with us. He said, fine, I'll spend Shabbos. Great. So he came.
Was Moshe being himself and doing regular Shabbos, or was he trying to get you in?
It was laid back. There was no pressure, and I got to see. You get to see what it's like. It wasn't like talking about why I should believe in God or talking about why I should love this. It was actually experiencing Shabbat, being immersed in it,
Right.
and realizing that this is nice. It's beautiful.
Now it's easy to look back and say this is an interesting story, but at that time,
Just your regular Shabbos.
fine. And then he leaves when is this?
The day
Sunday?
after on
Yeah.
the Sunday, and that's it.
And that's it. You go back to your life. Everything's the same.
Yeah.
Until when?
I think about 2.5 years afterwards. Again, I got an out of the blue call, and he tells me that he's moving from Vancouver to Eretz Yisrael. And I was, it's a big move. So I assumed, being from the West Coast, he was going to a kibbutz. So I asked him, where are you going in Israel? And he said he's looking for a yeshiva. And I said to him, what happened? Like, I haven't seen you in a couple of years. And he said, do you remember that Shabbos that I came to your house about 2.5 years ago? So he said something that he experienced at our Shabbos table inspired him enough to seek out a Rav in Vancouver and started his own quest for truth. And now he was off to a yeshiva.
So Moshe Krieger didn't even realize that he had played such an important role in your transformation, so to speak. What do you want to tell him?
Thank you for showing how it can work.
Truth be told, this is a very ordinary story.
Mm-hmm.
It's very ordinary. We can show things that are very dramatic, and people are watching this and saying, I'm waiting for the drama. What would you say to those people who are watching and are waiting for the drama to unfold and it's not going to happen? This is exactly what it is.
Right.
What would you say to them?
The beauty of Shabbos, the beauty of the Torah, and the beauty of the lives that we're living, just regular balabatim. You're bringing someone into that life from the life that they're coming from, which is to us ordinary, and from their perspective maybe extraordinary, can be very enlightening for them. And like in this case, where I had no idea I was doing anything, making any kind of roishim on someone, it made a huge impact. And now, Baruch Hashem, he's married, had his first child this year, and that's a big simcha.
Your little baby boy will grow up in a completely different world than you grew up in. How does that make you feel?
It completely blows me away. I mean, the world he's going to grow up, that he is growing up in right now, being in Jerusalem, of all places, in Israel. Religious mom and dad, religious on my wife's side of the family, all religious as well. Just completely, immersed in this. I'm thrilled by it.
How did this happen?
I don't know. I mean, how do we get here? Yes. For me, it's like always reminding myself, okay, thankful for everything I have, thankful for being here, thankful for my wife, my son, and for Moshe Krieger too.
Who did more for whom? You for Rafal? Rafal for you?
I for sure gained. Because now the kids are asking, where's the next Raphael coming from?
I wish I could tell you that it was an extraordinary story, but it wasn't. It is a very simple and ordinary one. And yet, out of that Shabbos invitation that he had no idea what the impact was, look what you have. Look at that baby, look at the family. Living in Yerushalayim, you're talking about generations. Doires, Netzach Netzachim, just from one invitation. That's Kiruv v'chaykim. Torah. Intuitively, we all know that there's a special power in learning with someone. We understand that, we experience it. But sometimes we don't realize how strong it is. In this story, we had to go a little bit. We traveled far. We went to Yavniel. It's near Tiberia. We had to see exactly what had become of this man. And when you see what has become of this man, you'll understand the power of Torah. You'll understand the power of learning with someone, even though it may not seem like much. And you may think, what do I know? How can I learn with somebody? What difference will it make? Let the Torah do the job. You'll watch. You'll understand. Tell us a little bit about where you were born, where you grew up, and then I know you went to Canada. Give us a little bit of a picture of how it all starts.
I was born in Israel, and in April 1987, they left to Toronto, Canada. It was a secular lifestyle. We were secular Jews. We're not connected to any congregation or any shuls.
Right. Secular Jews means many things to many people. So no shul experience.
No shul, no Shabbat, letzarenu, no kashrut, nothing. I think even for a period of time there was no mezuzah on our door. Absolutely nothing.
What did you like to do as a teenager?
Baseball was early on around the bar mitzvah time. All my bar mitzvah money went on the Toronto Blue Jays.
Really?
At that time they won 2 World Series.
Oh.
So it was a big thing. I used to go a lot to the Sky Dome.
Do you remember your bar mitzvah?
I remember my bar mitzvah. It was also in Toronto. We drove on Shabbos to shul.
On your bar mitzvah?
On my bar mitzvah. Nope, I didn't get any tefillin. I got
no tefillin?
No tefillin. No, I don't think even the name tefillin was mentioned to me. There's nothing Jewish about that bar mitzvah, I think.
And where does it go to the next step?
And in about my 4th year of university, something started feeling wrong. All of a sudden, I stopped being happy. And I didn't know what was happening because I liked my studies. I liked university. I liked the GPS. I liked the computers. I liked the academic world. I wanted to do a master's and a PhD, and I wanted to be, You
had it all.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be like, I don't know, Steve Jobs. I wanted to be in the high-tech world, GPS.
Right. Leor, you say, I wasn't happy, but you described so many things that you were happy with. What does that mean, I wasn't happy?
I felt that there's something more. It can't be just this existence. Right. And I wanted to explore who is Leor inside.
Mm-hmm. Where do you go? Where do you turn?
Right. So the first thing I remember, I said, wait, I have to go to shul. Something inside me said, when you're gonna go to shul, you're gonna find the answers there. So I always remember on the way to going to high school, there was a shul, Beth Jacob Anshe Drilt's synagogue. And I started walking, and it was like a 15-minute walk. I walk in, and I'm not religious at all, nothing. So right after, I guess someone caught me, they saw that I'm there. Wow, a young guy coming to shul in that neighborhood. We don't want to miss him. So the rabbi there, Rabbi Jake Kalman, he invited me that afternoon for a Shabbos meal. So they asked me, do you have where to eat? I was like, yeah, my mother's cooking right now. And they're like, wait, Shabbos? I was like, yeah, she's cooking right now. Right. And I went to Rabbi Kalman's house. I ate the meal. Later on, I started saying, okay, I'm going to go to the shul every Shabbos. And that was an incredible year that I met Uri Gronwald.
So you met Leor sometime when? When's the first time you remember having met him?
We met him through a program that a friend of mine started in Toronto to learn with people in the community once a week. Your first impression was, he's an Israeli guy. He's a big, good-looking dude with the sunglasses he's wearing most of the time. To me, it was really kind of, I'm not really sure what this guy is going to hear from me that's going to change anything. I'm not even sure what he's doing here.
I love Udi. Yeah, he was just a happy guy. Always sat with me. Always used to kiss the book, and when he picked it up, before he put it down, I was like, "Why are you kissing the book?" He's like, "That's what Jewish people do. When you pick a Sefer Kodesh," and he used to always rock back and forth. And I was like, "Why are you doing that?" He's like, "No, that's the way I learn."
What do you remember about learning with him? What actually were you learning with him?
So we learned, he wanted to get a taste of everything. And then one of the things he, I guess, was useful for me, but also he enjoyed maybe was the fact we learned in Hebrew. So, he would practice his English a little bit. I'd practice my Hebrew.
He was the only one that was maybe available and wanted to also learn with me in the Chavrusa, in Lashon HaKodesh, in Hebrew. Because I felt I wanted to learn in my mother tongue. He taught me everything. I mean, Torah Shebechtav, Torah Shebal Peh, Emunah. I always used to ask him, "Are you sure everything's from Shamayim? Nothing can happen to me if Hashem doesn't decree." He said, "Nothing." "Are you sure?"
My attitude has always been that, you want to share as much as you can of the knowledge that you have. A person's, their talents are really their obligations. And so, we'd sit there, we'd open a sefer that was easily accessible in terms of general discussion. So let's say Pirkei Avos or something, Musar or Sefer Rambam or something like that.
What was he like back then? You're talking about 15 years ago.
Yeah, so I think Leor's main concern was, what becoming frum would do to his social circle. He wouldn't be able to go out with a lot of his friends, so a lot of them went out at Friday nights. He was a bit worried about his family's reaction, what they would do, what they would say. And so I guess the challenge was kind of explaining to him that, he can make some minor changes and incrementally try to develop things and not be so worried about that kind of commitment.
It didn't stop with you. What happened with the rest of the family, with siblings, etc.?
So after I realized that I want to come to learn in yeshiva in Israel. And also at that time, my family got closer. And that meant that my home, my parents' house, became kosher. They put up mezuzot in every place. And after I got married, about 7 years ago, my brother became a Baal Tshuva.
We went to visit Leor, and I guess you haven't seen him recently, but he has a very beautiful family. He lives in a very beautiful community, and unbeknownst to you, you were really probably the key figure in creating all of that. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it makes me feel good. Obviously, it wants to makes me want to continue to learn with people. But I think the main thing is one never knows what kind of an impact they can have on somebody.
There are thousands, tens of thousands of people watching this here on Tisha B'Av. And a lot of them are very reluctant to do exactly what you did. Can you think of something you could say to them that would make them a little less fearful or less reluctant, that would say to them that they can do it too?
I think the main thing, or the main message that I would tell anybody is that it's not that difficult, and you don't need to be an expert. You really just need to be comfortable talking to people, and you need to be able to say, here's what I know, here's what I don't know. The main thing is to be honest and truthful. That's what people sense that right away, and that's what resonates.
We watched you interact with these two incredibly charismatic and gorgeous children that you have, and you must realize that their upbringing will be very different than yours. You had a bar mitzvah without tefillin. So you said there was nothing Jewish about your bar mitzvah. Everything they have is Jewish. What does that feel like for you, knowing that they're going to have such an unusually different experience?
Their whole point of view on the world will be different than mine. And that gives you huge satisfaction. That's real reward, knowing that they will grow up frum, with tznius, with Torah, with ahavat Hashem, ahavat tzaddikim, emunas chachamim. The first time I saw a page of Gemara was the age of 23. The first time I put on tefillin, I was 23. So for them to see payas, to see tznius, to see matzah, to see the incredible Jewish calendar with all its what it has to offer, and that I was denied from that, that's a huge reward. And you never know that the next person you're going to do Kiruv with, or you'll smile to them, or even say good morning, and even an invitation for Shabbos, from their kids will come the next Chafetz Chaim. From that person in itself will be a Chafetz Chaim. That it's generations that you're saving, that you cannot even see. And that's worth a little bit of an effort.
Amazing. Imagine you're Udi Grunwald. You're 20 years old. You're learning with somebody. You have no idea what's about to happen. And here it is. It's 15 years later, and your chavrusa is in Yavniel with a beautiful family, and he's being makar of thousands of other people. That's Kiruv V'chaikim too. Sometimes we meet a secular Jew and we think, this guy's got everything. He's got a great family and a great job and a little money and good looks, everything, The truth is, he doesn't have everything. The truth is that we have everything. The truth is you have everything. And you have something very valuable to offer. We just can't be afraid to talk to them. We have to realize that we can give them something that is priceless. What you're about to see will convince you that any discussion you have will be well worth it.
I grew up in Haifa, and I went to acting school after my service in the army. Graduate acting school, went straight to the theater, one of the theaters in Israel. It looked like a great place to be.
You grew up in Haifa, never Shabbat?
Never, not even Kiddush, nothing.
One day you find yourself on an airplane. Tell us about that.
So I got the opportunity to shoot an advertisement in New York, and on the plane I saw that religious, scary lady, Tzipi Reifer. So I told my girlfriend, help me here.
That was easy.
It was easy. You're gonna sit in the middle, you're gonna schmooze with her, and we're gonna enjoy our trip, our flight. It was my first flight to New York, 11 hours. I was so excited. And the problem with my girlfriend was that 5 minutes after taking off, 15 minutes before she took a sleeping pill, and 5 minutes after she was like, dead. And I was stuck with that lady for 11 hours. And I was very surprised that we started to talk.
One day you're sitting in your house and everything's fine, and the Rebbitzin is coming back from Eretz Yisrael, and she meets somebody on the plane. What does she tell you?
She told me she met an actor on the plane. And she sat 2 seats away from him, and Effie started talking to my wife. He was sitting by the window. My wife was sitting in the aisle seat, and the lady was sitting in the middle. And he started asking questions. A lot of these questions that he had were answered on the flight, and he was amazed that all these questions were answered. Before, nobody was able to answer these questions.
She was stuck with me on the plane, so she had to answer something.
Right.
But I gotta say that her answers were pretty good.
Really?
And she was very honest to say, you know what, Effie? I'm not God. I don't have all the answers. I know a lot of people that can give you some of the answers, and I promise you that I'm gonna ask them for the answer. That was good, for an Israeli that is ready to fight.
What did that mean to you when she said that? Like, she's submitting, she's vulnerable.
I appreciated the honesty. That she was honest to say, I don't know. And we talked about relationship, and Hashem, and education, and Shabbos. That was the heavy part, Shabbos.
Why was that heavy?
So when she said Shabbos, I was laughing. I told her, listen, you shouldn't go there.
Forget about
That's
that.
not me. That's not for me. I didn't see anything that makes sense about sitting for 25 hours with your 2 little challahs. I don't know, this is what I had in mind, in a total darkness, waiting for this 25 hours. And she said, Effie, if you have this strict opinion about Shabbos, you obviously didn't experience Shabbos the way it should be.
So my wife invited him for a Shabbos, and she kept on saying, I invited him for Shabbos. I wonder if he's going to ever call and accept the invitation. And sure enough, after a week and a half, he called, and he didn't really accept the invitation yet, but he touched base, and he saw how adamant my wife was to him to come for Shabbos, and he accepted.
Tell us the truth. Were you hoping that he would call her, or hoping that he would not call her?
I was apprehensive, to be honest.
So you weren't so sure that that would be the best thing?
I didn't know. I left it up to chance. Whatever happens is going to happen.
When he did finally call, what was her reaction?
She was happily shocked.
And you?
Apprehensive.
But I came on Friday morning, and I went to her house. I opened the door, and I saw the strainlos and the white socks, and the funny pants. It was like, I told myself, Effie, are you gonna be here for 25 hours?
God.
I don't think so.
The first thing we did when he came, we took him to Eichler's on 13th Avenue.
So I saw like a nice yarmulke, kippah sruga, and she said, no, I think that the black yarmulke more fits for you, which means a lot to me because this is the only yarmulke that I wear.
Really?
Yeah. And she bought me my tzitzit, my first tzitzit.
Really?
Yeah. It was special,
When he came in, he saw the Shabbos table was all set already, and that did something to him. Like he had to go get his camera and make a picture of it.
Really?
He was overwhelmed by just the sight of the Shabbos table.
He'd never seen a Shabbos table?
No.
And I told myself, Effie, give it a chance, It's one Shabbos. Turn off the phone, take it the whole way. I went to Baba Shul. People were shaking my hands and welcoming and smiling. It was a whole different experience than I ever had in Israel. And these people are so kind and warm, and they made me feel like home. And davening was great. It has a lot of meaning. And they were singing, they were dancing. They took me a part of it, it felt so special. And then we had Shabbos dinner.
What would you say to those people who are a little bit not so comfortable with this whole Shabbos idea?
I would definitely tell him to do it, but there are everybody has a different tchinas hanefesh, and if you're a nervous person and you can't do it, do something else.
Today is Tisha B'Av, that this film is being shown. They're listening to you and they're finding it hard to believe that there's a Hasidisha family in Borough Park who takes you in. You realize this is not something that happens every day.
They're surprised. I'm surprised. I'm still surprised. I was in shock. People ask me, why did you have to do all the way to Borough Park, Brooklyn to feel Shabbat? You live in Israel. This kotel, I was visiting this kotel probably once a year. I was so afraid to come here to have some kind of, conversation with religious people. And suddenly I saw a whole different Judaism, a whole different attitude for Judaism.
Mm-hmm. When did you realize that this was something special going on here? It's not somebody coming into the house.
I think Matzah Shabbos. He stayed here, he learned Chayvus Avos with one of my children upstairs. He came down crying and said, I want you to know you have no idea what you have. You have the most beautiful life that exists out there. I didn't know what you have until this Shabbos. So I want you to appreciate what you have.
And I couldn't sleep that night. I told myself, Effie, wake up. Wake up, because you need to ask yourself questions. I got a project in New York 4 months after to shoot some kind of catalog, and she heard that I'm coming. I told her that I'm coming for a few days. She said, Effie, you have to stay. The project was canceled, the show was canceled, and I had two months, a month and a half off. She said, Effie, if you're coming, you're staying. And I went to Baba, and I was learning, and I was with her family, and I had chevruta in the morning with her son. And at that moment, I realized that I want to keep Shabbos.
After he left back to Israel, almost every day she was in contact with him.
Almost every day.
Yes. There isn't a day today that goes by that we're not going to say that you have him, Effie.
So that's why when I asked you how many children you have, you wouldn't say how many because he's one of them.
Baruch Hashem.
Is that a fair statement that I just made?
For sure.
Really?
Yes. He learned to become a Yid in this house, and this is something very special to us. We feel like he's just part of our family. I think he feels like he's part of our family too.
I'm not even thinking about the future. I don't know where am I gonna be. Hashem is leading me pretty good. And these people have so much power. They have the tool, they have everything that Hashem gave them to show that this is the right way. They just need to learn how to show it.
A few years ago, she was not involved in this? Sure. Is this something you could have predicted?
Never.
And?
So she saw in the newspaper the Project Inspire was giving seminars in Flatbush. So she went, and since then, the rest is history. She became trans with the limit of Leor Weinberg. And she constantly listens to his tapes, listens to his shir, and no saying where this is going to bring.
You realize that for every Reifer family, there are thousands of others who are nothing like them. Many of them are watching this film right now. Many of them. And they're saying, if I get on a plane and Effie's sitting next to me,
never talk to him.
I'm just going to go back to my Sefer or my iPod or whatever it is, and I'm going to enjoy or fall asleep. What would you say to those thousands of people?
I want to tell them that they have a gift, that they are blessed. All they need to do is just give it a chance, you know? Give us a chance, the people that didn't have the opportunity to experience it. I felt so angry that Shabbat that nobody introduced me of Shabbos. And I felt like these people, this Reifer family, they're so lucky to have it. Share it with us. All the religious people that experience Judaism every day, share it with us. And they're gonna change the world, I'm telling you. They're gonna make Hashem so happy. And we're sitting here, Churban Bet HaMikdash, Tisha B'Av. We weren't united, you know? We're one big happy family, and this is a case of what happens if we're not united. They have the power to bring us all together to one family.
I think if we all cried like you're crying, then we'll get there.
Sad Hashem, amen. Thank you.
I tell you the truth. I watched that like you watched that, but I was also there. I don't think I will ever forget the time that I spent with Effie and the moments that I felt his neshama. It is unbelievable. To think how far he can come. And where did it come from? Somebody sitting 2 seats away on an airplane. Borough Park, that's right, Borough Park, Bobov. And today, he's learning, he's finding himself. His journey to Jerusalem was a journey that we all can take, whether we're going to Jerusalem or whether we're in Borough Park. No matter where we are, it could be 35,000 feet in the air, it could be around the corner, it could be sitting with your lawyer or talking with your dry cleaner. There's an Effie out there who we all can touch. We've got to do it. You've seen 4 stories today, stories of inspiration. Truth is, there are thousands. In past years, thousands and tens of thousands of people have been affected and been touched by these presentations. You've seen the power of Shabbos. You've seen the power of Torah, the power of Yerushalayim. The power, my friends, is really in you. That's a power that you need to harness today. Yes, today, on Tisha B'Av. This is the time that we not only want to feel inspired, not only want to feel moved, but we want to take action. We want to commit ourselves to saying that we can be a part of the final journey to Jerusalem. That's what we want to do. And if you have any lingering doubts or any questions about whether you can or whether you should be involved in this, we have the opportunity, the schus, to show you a final clip, just 2 minutes, of Reb Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, whose passing we still mourn during this year. And we see how this Gadol Hadar, with his keen understanding of the human condition and his keen understanding of Yiddishkeit, explains so simply and so powerfully about how important this really is.
I'm sure that the Rosh Yeshiva is aware that the intermarriage and assimilation rate in America and in England is soaring. It's getting bigger and bigger. Today it's something like 40 to 50%. How important is it for our Olam, the Torah Olam, the B'nai Torah, to get involved? Is it our achrayus? What can we do?
What do you mean? We are mechuyev to see that our brethren also observe Torah mitzvahs like we.
So we're responsible for everyone. But how in this doya, how important is it? Does it take on a bigger...
As much time necessitates.
What about our own learning?
I think you can still find time for learning as well.
We can find time for our own learning as well.
The holy Kiruv, he has enough time for learning as well.
What would the Rosh Yeshiva say to the many people who feel that they don't have the skills, that they haven't been brought up in the same way, they don't know how to deal with the non-from world, they're frightened to deal with the non-from world?
But you give them lessons. You give them a lesson or two, and you show them how. You should have a special course for that, I think, arrange a course, how to do Kiruv.
What about those people who feel that bringing non-from people into their house, they should invite them for Shabbos and they're scared because they're frightened that their children will be mushba from non-from people?
That's not child. Just for Shabbos, don't want to be mushba. It's not true. They won't light any cigarettes on Shabbat in the home. They wouldn't put on the lights either on Shabbat. There'll be no shlata shvuya. I don't think so.
We want them to give up once a week to sit and learn with another person. What if they're learning Daf HaYomi or Omid Yomi?
But to learn the other people, just they also can't Talmud tell, but why not?
Because they'll miss the Daf, they'll miss the Omid.
So what? They'll make it up some other time.
They'll make it up some other time.
Yeah, but this was the element in the rechte,
yeah. Time. They don't have time to come to training. It's a bittel's man. What should one say to them?
They can bring one closer to Yiddishkeit. Hashem is waar. We're mechuyev to do that.
We're mechuyev to do that.
You've heard the instructions from our Gedolim. You've seen the inspiration from our stories. You know what this is about. You understand. My guess is you're moved. You're inspired. You want to do something. It's no longer a question of what is there left to say, is what is there left to do. You want to make sure that you leave here with something concrete. No matter where you are, you're sitting at home looking at a computer screen, you're sitting in a shul, in a bungalow colony, in a camp, wherever you may be, you have with you a card, a simple card that gives you options for Kiruv. All you need to do is take this card and either click or check off any of the boxes there. Perhaps you can learn with someone. Perhaps you can be a chavrusa as you saw in the films. Perhaps you can just share some of your knowledge with somebody. Check that box off. Perhaps, as Rav Scheinberg just told you, that we can be trained. It's very easy. Home Kiruv training means just 10 people in your house, we do the rest. Or maybe number 3, or maybe all of them. You want to reach out to a coworker. You don't know how to do it exactly. Check off the box. Someone from Project Inspire will contact you. You don't want to leave this Tisha B'Av without some kind of commitment. You don't want to say goodbye to Tisha B'Av and say, I could have and I should have done something. This is your chance to do it. Take that card, take that mouse, click the screen, check the box, make a difference. You can be a part of bringing the Geula Shalema, the Mheira V'Yameinu. Amen.
An interesting Maisa, which might have happened over the last 50 years, which Rosh Hashiva remembers about
how the Rosh
Hashiva...
Yes. Oh, he remembers. Oh,
Yeah.
Maisa, we have to just remember.
That was it.
I remember a Maisa that the Rosh Hashiva went to a dentist. And this dentist was not religious. He was from South Africa. You know, what's his name? Dr. Who was the Rosh Hashiva's dentist?
Oh, Miller.
Miller.
He's not from Australia.
From Australia. He's from Australia. He was not religious. And the Rosh Hashiva went to him, and it seems he had to have a different things done on his teeth. So he wanted to give the Rosh Hashiva a shot. And the Rosh Hashiva did not want a shot. He was afraid for a heart, whatever, did not want a shot. So he said, but it's going to be impossible. I have to do surgery. So the Rosh Hashiva said, let me just get into a sugya, and I'll think and learning, and then do what you want. So he wanted 10 minutes or so, and then he started to work, and the Rosh Hashiva didn't move an eyelash. When he finished, the dentist called his driver, and he said, I want you to bring me tefillin.
That's an Eisner Maisa. That is fantastic. No, the Rosh Hashiva has to say the story. That's fantastic.
He asked Asta to bring him, and since then he's putting on tefillin.